So I was not expecting this, but to be honest, it was obviously, I think, bound to happen at some point. NATO has officially been put on high alert, and it has been in response, if you've been following the news, after a sabotage, because the Finnish and Estonian authorities have said, look, the only way we can see this happening is because of an outside source interfering with a pipeline. And this pipeline in particular pumps gas, in particular from Estonia up into Finland. And coming into winter, where you have probably a lot more use for gas in Finland. I mean, I'm not 100% sure how how much Finland uses gas. It might, I think, when I've looked into it, they use it more really for industry rather than they do for heating. But needless to say, this is a very, very, very worrying move. Just this time last year, we saw the Nord Stream 2 pipeline be sabotaged. And from all intents and purposes, although there was no clear evidence that it was Russia that did this, during looking at the seismology, looking at the evidence that had been left behind, it was clear that some form of explosive had been used to sabotage Nord Stream 2. And from what we are hearing so far at the moment, a couple of marine seismologists who monitor this, and it's not just sources from Estonia, but from Finland as well, have said that the exact same seismology reading registered in this point on the pipeline, just as it did with Nord Stream 2. So this is worrying. This is very worrying, because I will tell you now, as NATO have said, they have promised that they will respond. Because remember, this, at this moment in time, is potentially could be an attack on Finland, which means Article 5. We'll see what happens, but hey, this is pretty serious. So before we get more into discussing this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a off-donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And of course, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And of course, there is the Pony Club, the YouTube thank you button as well. So as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. So let's go over to our Google map and have a look at what's gone on here. So roughly the pipeline, if I remember correctly, we're using new technology today as well, is somewhere here, I believe. That's where I believe the pipeline is. So as we said at the beginning, this is a pipeline that puts gas from Estonia over into Finland. Like I say, very, very important resource. So as you can see, this is quite significant. And the big teller here is that this might very well be sabotaged. The fact that you have seismologists who are coming out and saying this is the exact same seismology reading we saw when Nord Stream 2 was attacked in a very similar way. Now, why, might you say, is this happening? Well, ultimately, it is because of, Finland joining NATO. And Finland joined NATO for one reason and one reason alone. Because of Vladimir Putin's insane, crazy speech he dropped right at the start of the war, when he said that he intended to reclaim all Russian imperial territory, not just Soviet territory, imperial territory. And that includes Finland. So immediately, Finland was like, okay, we're joining NATO. We're joining NATO because we are worried about that. When you've had Vladimir Putin come out and say, um, that's our, that's rightful, Russian imperial territory, you know, you got a problem. So this is what Finland immediately did. And even when they were joining this, Putin and Russia and all like the Russian like commentary sphere was constantly out there saying if Finland does this, if they join, then bad things are going to happen. That is literally what they were saying. They were acting very much like a mafia boss, saying if you do not do this, or if you join NATO, bad things are going to happen. Watch yourself. And of course, almost a year to the day after Nord Stream 2 was attacked, we now have this attacked. And it isn't just gas, it's also a communications pipeline, which is also why Finland went on high alert as well. Because obviously, rule number one in war, if you are going to launch an invasion, you go after communications infrastructure. So Finland got put on high alert because it was worried, oh no, is there an invasion coming? So they went on high alert. But what would Finland do in the event of a NATO triggering Article 5? Well, Finland's one job in any war against Russia is essentially, let me get my drawing tools out, is essentially to do this. To just block off that area. Why? Why is that so important to Russia? Well, as you can see, it's this. Murmansk. Murmansk is its only route into the Atlantic at this point. With the Baltic Sea becoming a NATO lake, with Sweden soon to join as soon as Orban is brave enough to drop the vote. At this point, the only Russian navy that can actually act with impunity will be from Murmansk. And Finland has trained for this. They train for this all the time. And bear in mind, this is Russia's own fault for making such a juicy target. Because I don't know if you can see on Google Maps, but we'll just put it to red so you can see. But there is this little highway. I'm just going to try and trace it as best I can. There is this one train line and highway that goes and supports Murmansk. If that gets cut, if that gets taken, then effectively Murmansk will not last because guess what? The Norwegians are in NATO as well. And guess what their one job is in any potential NATO conflict? So, as you can see, this is why this might be about to kick off and why this is serious, because this could trigger collective defense, it could trigger collective response. And this won't be sanctions because NATO ain't in the business of doing economic sanctions, it's in the business of defense. And you could see two things happen. Either A, NATO goes, okay, we're going to put even more stuff into Ukraine. We're going to help them even more. There's been talk before about letting NATO pilots fly in Ukraine with, NATO like F-16s and things like that. Well, might that be allowed to happen? We don't know, but it could be interesting. Um, there's all kinds of things that NATO might respond to. Would it be ultimately a triggering of Article 5? I don't know that you've attacked a member. I don't know, but don't get me wrong. This is serious. This is incredibly serious and incredibly foolish from Russia. Incredibly foolish from Russia to do this because they have been talking up um, punishing Finland for joining NATO all this time. So the prime suspect is Russia. And yet, if they do get evidence that this was Russia, then oh boy, um, we could generally about to see a bit of escalation going on here. I kid you not. This could be a major piece of escalation because you've just attacked vital infrastructure of a NATO member. What did Putin think was going to happen? So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.